Hello and welcome to Intriguing Realms. Tonight we look at the reincarnation claims of Egyptologist Dorothy Eady, known as Omm Seti, in the early 20th century. Dorothy Eady was born in London in 1904 to Irish parents. Her life was completely normal until at the age of 3 she slipped and fell down the stairs. She was severely injured and was pronounced dead on the scene. But an hour later she sat up in bed, miraculously recovered and seemingly unaffected. She developed foreign accent syndrome which persisted for the rest of her life, and 4 years after the accident, events took a strange turn. Whilst visiting the British Museum, on entering the Egyptian section, Dorothy became fascinated with the artifacts. She ran around the statues and kissed their feet. She saw a photo of the Temple of Seti and said, "There is my home, but where are the trees? Where are the gardens?" She sat next to one of the mummies enclosed in its glass casing and refused to go home, shouting, "Leave me here, these are my people." In the following years, she became obsessed with Egypt. In melancholy, she would sit and stare at pictures of Egypt, insisting that it was her true home and that she needed to return. She had vivid dreams about Egyptian columned temples and beautiful gardens and became obsessed with Egyptology and reincarnation. She attended spiritualist meetings and joined groups that studied reincarnation, believing that she had a true spiritual connection to Egypt. She studied Egyptology all through her 20s, struggling to understand her connection from a logical point of view. In 1933, she married an Egyptian man called Abdul, and they moved to Cairo. On arrival, she kissed the ground and said that she had returned to her country to stay. She had a child who she named after the ancient pharaoh Seti. Following the Egyptian custom of not referring to the mother's first name, she herself became known as Omm Seti, meaning Mother of Seti. At night, her husband would often find her in a deep trance, scribbling hieroglyphics in her journal. She wrote 70 pages, claiming they were discussions with her spirit guide, Hor-Ra, concerning her previous life. On one occasion, Abdul's father ran out of the house after claiming to have seen a pharaoh sitting at the foot of Omm Seti's bed. Abdul had no interest in Egyptology and was distressed by his wife's strange behavior. The marriage did not last. Omm Seti reportedly had the ability to charm snakes, which a scholar informed her was a magical ability written about in ancient Egyptian texts. She was incarcerated several times in a sanatorium due to her strange behavior and ramblings. When the hieroglyphics in her journal were translated, they provided a highly detailed account of her previous incarnation in ancient Egypt. They revealed that, in her previous life, she was born in Egypt around 1290 BC as a child called Bentrashite, meaning harp of joy. Her family were humble. Her father was a soldier and her mother a grocer. When she was 3, her mother died and her father put her into the Qom el-Sultan temple to become a priestess. She recalled performing ceremonies at the annual reenactment of Osiris's passion and resurrection, a role that only virgin priestesses consecrated to Isis could perform. At the age of 14, she fell in love with the pharaoh Seti and became pregnant. Having taken a vow of virginity as a priestess, this was forbidden, and she committed suicide so that the pharaoh would not be punished. Seti was devastated and vowed that they would be reunited one day. She wrote that she had talked spiritually with Seti, and she planned to reunite with him in Amentet, the Egyptian underworld. She claimed he visited her at night, and they had what she called spiritual romantic encounters. In 1956, she took a job at the Antiquities Department at Abydos. Through her memories of her past life, she was able to help archaeologists find the exact location of the temple garden and an undiscovered tunnel. She also related interesting facts about ancient Egypt unknown to anyone. She claimed the Sphinx was much older than people thought, and that its face had been partially destroyed by a man opposed to the ancient religions. He had then ordered it covered in sand. She also revealed that there was a still as yet undiscovered library under the Temple of Seti. She claimed that the ancient Egyptians believed that images repeated the actions shown in them. So an offering to a god shown in a painting was repeated, as long as the painting survived. She was able to explain how ancient Egyptian rituals and customs had been passed down over the years to become embedded into local folklore, still practiced by Muslims and Egyptian Coptic Christians. She herself would make offerings to the gods of ancient Egypt and often stayed the night in the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Temple of Abydos had a particular attraction for her, as that was where she had lived as a priestess. The chief inspector from the Antiquities Department decided to test her by asking her to identify the locations of wall paintings in complete darkness. She passed all the tests. She lived out the rest of her days near the temple, studying and performing healing rituals for the locals all learnt during her previous life. She died in 1981. Omm Seti was never tested by parapsychologists, and so it is hard to determine the truth of her claims. Was she genuinely a reincarnation of an ancient Egyptian priestess? Scholars are divided on the subject. She seemed to display a huge knowledge of the period, revealing customs and traditions not recorded by history, yet convincingly logical and believable to an Egyptologist. But were these just suppositions and theories based on her own research? Did her injury at a young age cause her hallucinations and give her a split personality, causing her to believe she was conversing with a spirit guide? Or did the fall somehow connect her with her previous life? One of the common traits of reincarnation cases is an unpleasant death in the previous life. Often, the first indication of a reincarnation case is a child describing their violent or tragic death, and Omm Seti certainly fits this pattern. Did her soul have unfinished business, causing it to reach out to the soul of Seti? Believers in reincarnation disagree on the time between death and rebirth. Some say it is immediate, others say that many years may pass. Perhaps the pharaoh and Omm Seti have lived numerous lives together and were reaching out to each other in this one. If you have had a true supernatural experience, please send it to us at intriguingrealms@gmail.com, and we may feature it on the channel.